Hey there, just a heads up, this episode of the Judo Science Podcast was created with help from AI. Some of the voices you'll hear are synthetic, but the ideas come from real research and real judo.
Welcome to the debate.
Today, we're diving into the mechanics of throwing in disciplines like judo, specifically those core phases. Kuzushi, that's unbalancing, Tsukuri, the entry or fitting in part, and kake, the final throwing action.
Right. And the central question we're tackling, based on some interesting biomechanical analysis, is this. Is Kuzushi, that unbalancing step, always necessary for a successful throw?
Okay. And I'll be taking the position that, well, for the most complex, maybe the most powerful techniques, Kuzushi is absolutely fundamental. You just can't execute them properly without it.
And I'm going to argue slightly differently. While Kuzushi definitely helps, I think the analysis shows that some very effective throws, particularly certain types, can work just fine without a distinct Kuzushi phase. It becomes more about, positioning and timing, especially when things are moving fast.
So my stance really comes down to the biomechanics of what the research calls the physical lever group of techniques. Think about your big rotation throws like osotogari or seonage, maybe a deep uchimata. These are often the high-scoring throws, right? They involve a complex connection between you and your opponent. And Kuzushi, done right, is what minimizes the energy you need to exert. It sets up the most efficient path for the throw. Without that initial unbalancing, frankly, it often just takes too much raw strength and usually fails. It's about precision.
Okay, that makes sense for those big rotational throws. I get that. But we also have to consider the other main biomechanical group, the couple of forces techniques. These are more your quick foot sweeps, things like deashi barai, maybe uchigari. What the analysis suggests here is that for these simpler, faster movements, Kuzushi isn't strictly necessary in the same way. For these throws, the tsukuri, the entry, the timing, getting your foot in the right place, that's really the key. You can effectively throw someone just by disrupting their base as they move, even if you haven't, fully unbalanced them beforehand. Speed and timing take precedence.
Yeah, I understand the emphasis on simplicity and speed there. But let me offer a counterpoint, especially thinking about developing real skill. Those lever techniques, the complex ones we talked about, they need more than just closing the distance, which the research calls general action invariants, or GAI. They also demand these really specific, very refined movements, the specific action invariants, or SAI. Arms, legs, trunk, all working together in a precise way. Now, this complexity, which is what creates that powerful physical lever, it pretty much demands that preceding Kuzushi phase. It forces a momentary pause almost. It gives the thrower just enough time to integrate the GAI and SAI properly before hitting the kake, the execution. Without Kuzushi creating that tiny window, the whole structure of the throw tends to fall apart.
That's an interesting point about the pause needed for complexity. But practically speaking, especially for, say, a hobbyist judoka in a fast exchange, does that always hold? The research we're looking at explicitly states that these couple of forces techniques, the sweeps and such, can be applied effectively whatever the shifting velocity of the athletes. That seems pretty critical. Their formal independence from needing Kuzushi means they are fundamentally simpler motor skills. They focus on closing the distance fast and getting the footwork right, the Tsukuri, to execute the kake. And because they're simpler, you can apply them during continuous movement. There's no need to stop and find that perfect unbalance like the lever throws often require. We see it all the time, right? Those rapid foot sweeps in competition. There's no obvious pause for Kuzushi. It's all flow and timing.
Okay, I acknowledge the effectiveness of those faster, simpler throws in motion. But I'm not convinced that just because a throw can bypass Kuzushi, that should be the ultimate aim of training. The research does confirm that the physical lever techniques, the ones requiring Kuzushi, tend to be more effective overall, more powerful, and actually more energy efficient for the thrower when they're performed with skill and precision. For anyone aiming for real technical mastery for those big, decisive throws, shouldn't the goal be the best executed technique leveraging Kuzushi rather than just the simplest one that works on the move? Focusing only on techniques that avoid Kuzushi might even lead to, well, some bad habits or limitations down the line.
Right, and we definitely agree that Tsukuri, the entry and positioning, is crucial. It's the common denominator for all throws, no question. My point remains that, for the everyday judoka, understanding the biomechanics is useful. It shows that some reliable high-percentage techniques, this couple of forces group, don't absolutely depend on achieving perfect Kuzushi first. They offer a path to success that's maybe more immediately accessible, focusing on that timing and entry during movement.
And my position still holds that for those seeking the highest levels of technique, the complex, often high-scoring, and ultimately energy-saving throws in the physical lever group, dedicated practice of Kuzushi is absolutely essential. Learning how to connect those general and specific actions, the GAI and SEI, through precise unbalancing and timing, that's really key to unlocking true technical depth and efficiency in your throws.
So looking at throwing mechanics this way, through this biomechanical lens, it really highlights that what constitutes the best approach isn't a single answer. It seems to depend heavily on the underlying physical principle you're engaging with, whether it's the rapid timing emphasis of the couple of forces,
Or the precise lever-based power generated through effective Kuzushi in the physical lever group.
Absolutely. It shows there's always more nuance to explore in how these fundamental principles play out.